from Djibouti selling to Kenya, or traders from Kenya selling to Djibouti, have to look for U.S. dollars. How is U.S. dollars part of the trade between Djibouti and Kenya? Why? And we are not against the U.S. dollar. We just want to trade much more freely. Let us pay in U.S. dollars what we are buying from the U.S. But what we are buying from Djibouti, let's use local currency.
They want to always dictate to us who our friends should be, who Africa should cooperate with. And they're willing to topple governments, to assassinate our leaders for this. And now Africa has multiple options. Africa doesn't have to succumb to a bad deal that we get from the Western countries. Africa has choice now.
Welcome to Wake Up Black. Educate and enlighten.
First, let's talk about Africa. Something astonishing happened this week. Kenyan President William Samoei Ruto speaking to Parliament, announcing that Kenya would start trading in local currencies and not in the U.S. dollar as they have been doing for decades. Holy smokes. The cracks are forming. Watch the standing ovation that he received from this speech.
From Djibouti selling to Kenya, or traders from Kenya selling to Djibouti, have to look for U.S. dollars. How is U.S. dollars part of the trade between Djibouti and Kenya? Why? And we are not against the U.S. dollar. We just want to trade much more freely. Let us pay in U.S. dollars what we are buying from the U.S. But what we are buying from Djibouti, let's use local currency.
For far too long, the vibrant and resource-rich continent of Africa has been tethered to the United States dollar. But guess what? Africa is waking up, and it's moving away from the dollar faster than you can say economic independence. They have been kept under the thumb of the West for centuries. African nations are now suddenly embracing regional integration. Their neighbors, seeking to reduce their dependence on external currencies. Goodbye U.S. dollar. And just this week, a Zambian politician spoke about how the West has been exploiting and raping Africa for centuries. And Africa is now demanding autonomy. They feel that Russia and China are trusted partners in that endeavor.
Just a few months ago, we had a democracy summit in Zambia where it was basically a Western and a US-led conference to draw back cooperation with both China and Russia for the African continent. They want to always dictate to us who our friends should be, who Africa should cooperate with. And they're willing to topple governments, to assassinate our leaders for this.
Wait a second. Is that fake news, what she just said? The United States has been toppling governments in Africa in order to exploit them? Really? That sounds fake. I didn't hear about that on Anderson Cooper's show on CNN. Oh, wait. Yes, it's 100% true. In fact, the list is even too long to count. But here's just one example. This is Patrice Lumumba. He was the first prime minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he was that leader for about 4 months, from June until September 1960, before he was killed by the West. Yes, the West assassinated him. Do you know what nefarious things he did to deserve to be killed by the West? Well, he was elected on a platform of keeping Congo's minerals and commodities for itself, instead of having them raped by the West. He even told the Western governments, he said, quote, "We are no longer your monkeys." Yes, he said that. He told the West to get out of his country, get out of our mines, get away from our minerals. These are our minerals. The West shook its collective head and said, "We hear you. Yeah, we hear you." But they didn't leave. The Western powers stayed in his mines. He begged the United Nations for help on top of it. They ignored him. Then Congo went to the Soviet Union for help. And guess what? The moment that happened, the CIA swooped in and helped assassinate him, along with the Belgians who were occupying the mines in the Congo. They worked together and took him out. So see how this works? Then the United States installed a puppet government, and the rest is Congo history. I could go on in Egypt and Somalia and Sudan. We'd be here all day. So is it any surprise that unipolar order is crumbling? The bullies are getting bullied themselves? Africa is watching international support moving away from America to China and Russia, and they are making a decision. They want to keep their sovereignty. They want to keep their own minerals, their own resources. Now, that very same politician from Zambia says we're tired of being exploited. Akenda Chundama is her name. She says Africa has learned its lesson and is looking elsewhere for support.
Africa is a hub for natural resources. It has always been for the West. And now Africa has multiple options. Africa doesn't have to succumb to a bad deal that we get from the Western countries. Africa has choice now. We're moving to a multipolar world, and it's very clear that Africa now has many options. Cooperation with the West is not our only option. BRICS is opening doors for the African continent to say that even when it comes to financing, when it comes to infrastructure development, when it comes to a future for Africa, we've got different options today. So this doesn't sit well with the West.